Howdy, all you delicious people. I am here today to review a movie called The Curve, or alternately titled Dead Man's Curve, because there's some spots where this movie will either be called The Curve or Dead Man's Curve, but logically, I'm just going to state that this movie is to be called The Curve, because logically, there are to also be at points where people are to die, but it's not to be a man. So that's The Curve is really just be a more PC-ish like title. So we come into a movie like this, and it is to be one of the more darker titles that I've probably seen in quite a while. And to really show you the scale of darkness, I'm to just not state that this is just a plate full of darkness, and you're just like, oh, okay, all right, well, like, no, like this isn't all you can eat buffet of darkness where you were to go on and think that you can still just have this one plate of darkness and people are coming out of the woodwork to serve you more darkness, and you're to just go on and be like, no, I think I'm fine with this plate. I think it's good. Like, if I really wanted more darkness, I can go on and just kind of find it later. But no, like you go onto a bathroom break while you have gone on to eat, and you come back and you just have a plate full of darkness. I'm like, hey, like I didn't ask for this, and like, well, hey, these guys just came in and just kept just putting this on your plate, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, so it's like that kind of level of darkness. So we have a movie that has to go on and quickly compared to there is obviously this deer hunter scene. If you've gone on and ever heard of the movie Deer Hunter with Robert De Niro and Christopher Walken, there's a scene where they go on and play Russian roulette within that movie. That is to kind of go on and put guns to people's heads and kind of do themselves in. Whereas in this movie, instead of guns, they have beer bottles, and they kind of put these beer bottles, beer cans to their head, and open them to go on and see if they're going to explode or not. And that is to go on and be quite possibly compared to Deer Hunter here. But then also, I would have to go on and compare this movie to other things that would obviously help me try to go on and explain this film, and I will go on and do so. There, of course, was a film called Dead Man on Campus, which is to build to the idea of two men going on and needing a third party person to have that person do themselves in, so the two that are to be left alive are to go on and get this 4.0 grading average. And for that movie, Dead Man on Campus, they build to, I believe, in some kind of comedic way of this all happening. Whereas this movie tries to accomplish the task of having a person self murdering themselves so early that it's like, okay, what is left to accomplish within the rest of this film? Which is really just to build about how Tim's character, who's played by Matthew Lillard, is to just be this really horrible character that is to master manipulate people and hope that he's going to go on by the end of this film and get exactly what he is to go on and want. And victory lap his way by the end of the film to think that he's accomplishing all of this. And so he does. Maybe. But so, we have this film that is to go on and be quite so dark because, of course, we go on to have a character named Natalie, who we find is Rand's girlfriend in this movie. And it seems that she has a secret that she has to go on and tell Rand. And with it seemingly being that Rand is to have a bit of demise here, we are to realize that Natalie is to go on and follow suit, which is to end up being the saddest part of this film. But logically, we have to go on and just realize how dark this movie is. But so, this movie eventually is to go on and build and be such a slow slog of a movie that I can justify and understand that people may not go on and really be interested in it. But for me, I honestly just have to go on and at this point just come up with content consistently. And I just stumbled upon this film. I saw that Matthew Lillard was in it, and I'm like, okay, this is a much more interesting Matthew Lillard character than I think I've ever gone on and seen elsewhere. So I decided to go on and do this movie because of that, and then also for the just tags that I may go on and have with this movie compared to a lot of others that may go on and at some point help me go on and find things to review in the later aspect of reviewing. So this movie I would go on and compare to stuff like The Perfect Score, which is to be the Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson movie. Slackers, which is to be a Devon Sawa film, where they go on into kind of comedic avenues to raunchy and comedic avenues to try and kind of work the system, but come to find out a person ends up kind of working them to get what he wants and blackmails and manipulates them, and that ends up just kind of coming into just a fairly interesting bit of tale of things that untwine there within a college atmosphere. And then also, this movie is to go on and to be compared to the Nev Campbell, Kevin Bacon movie Wild Things for the environment that it is to be put in, as well as also just the interesting story within that intertwines within me having to figure out how to compare this movie to something. And then lastly, of course, we go on and have me have to compare this movie to Murder by Numbers, which is a Ryan Gosling, Sandra Bullock film. Two kids are to hope that they can put together the perfect murder, and Sandra Bullock is to go on and hope that she can solve this perfect murder and realize who had gone on and done this murder, and have the characters kind of be butting heads throughout this entire film. So, with that said, let's go on and let's get into the spoiler territory because I think it's about that time to go on and eventually fully break down this movie. But yet, still, there is some stuff to be unsheathed here. So, because I had kind of just told you the concept of this movie, and that's about it. So, for this film, we go on and tiptoe our way seemingly further into the darkness aspect of this film, and realize that a bulk of this is supposedly grieving Rand's death, and we have Tim who's to go on and have a story about how much of a jerk Rand really is, and to not really give much help in this situation. But then it seems that Rand's body is to be quite easily a little bit more difficult to find. And so both Chris and both Tim here are realizing like, well, hey, like the semester is almost up. We need this 4.0. So what are we gonna do here? Like, how are we gonna go on and get the grade the way we are? And so it starts to drive this competition between both Tim and both Chris. Just like, well, hey, if we can't have them discover Rand, they need to discover somebody. And so it ends up just driving a wedge between these two characters to where Tim is to go on and try to make life harder for Chris in a number of ways, to then hope that Tim, by the end of this, is to be like, well, hey, I've set this all up. So, Tim, you're just going to have to go on and do what I want you to do by the end of this, because I just think that I'm to master manipulate everybody just so well that they will go on and have this fall into place the way it is going to fall in place, and I'm to victory lap my way into a 4.0. And we'll see how that ends by the tail end of this movie. The mystery of it all, the build of it all, and also that this movie is to go on and just kind of be a film that you probably just need an hour and a half to just have something to do, right? That is to really just be what this film is to be. Just because, like, I have to honestly state that this movie is just bad just because of how dark it is and how, like, probably pleasing it is probably to a number of people. But legit, like, I just need content to just review every day, folks. I'm sorry for the just real truth of it all. I just need to just keep being a spoke on the wheel here and just keep needing to just continue to just coming up with things. So uh, maybe not all of them good, maybe not all of them viewable, but at least it's still just kind of like, hey, like this will be something that may be worthwhile someday, but maybe not today. So, with that said, let's go on and say that uh, this movie is to go on and probably be very soon be making its way off Tubi, but it is supposedly right now, the current of the second recording, available on that app. If not, dare in fact it is to not be available on that, then it'll go on and be available on an app called Zelifonic, Zelivonic. This app is to go on and be something that I've been using for a very long time now, and it is to, of course, be a app that you can dare in fact watch this movie for absolutely free, but it'll be under the title Dead Man's Curve instead of The Curve. So you can go on and check out this movie there. I'm not quite sure exactly the best of quality that it really logically is, but it still will be available there. And then, of course, you can go on and to see this movie if you want to go on and just watch it anyways, because you just have an hour and a half to just kill. But anyways, so with that said, let's go on and let's push into full-on spoilers about this movie. I think it's about that time to say that I have to go on and just cliff note and whatever this way through this film, and make our way to further talking about this film. Even though logically, a lot of people are like, click, and I won't go on and blame you. But let's go into actual spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time again to spoil this movie. Let me know in the comments below what is to, of course, to have possibly been your interest in this film. Maybe it's just because it was Matthew Lillard was in it, or actually that you just needed an hour and a half of just something to just watch. So that's okay, because at the end of the day, if there is to go on and logically be a movie that is to be quite similar to this, let me know in the comments below, because that'll go on and help a lot for me to go on and be able to just chuck tags by the bottom of this video and just find out what is to actually be popular on this platform, because nothing really ever is. Unless it's to be things that I've just consistently been doing, and like they just kind of they go somewhere at some points. But anyways, what I hope to go on and review in the future, I hope to go on and review Squid Game Season 3. Seems to be the new release thing that I probably should be pushing to actually go on and review, but I'm doing this instead. But I'm sure it may not go on and get me anywhere, but I don't really care. Like, I just need something to just do on this channel at this point. Just be consistent. And I'm going to go on and review the Tom Cruise film Risky Business, because that seems to be a risque film that can go on and interest quite a bit of people. And I've never gone on and remember to have seen this movie fully, so that could be really interesting to kind of just see how that movie all plays out. And also, I'm to go on and to think about watching stuff like the Michael Keaton movie Night Shift, and possibly also go on and justify myself seeing the movie The Phantom that has Billy Zane in it, and just kind of watch another just kind of superhero-esque like film that goes on and just has some goofy ideas. But logically, I've seen it in the past, as well as also I've seen another movie called The Phantom that is kind of similar to that. So, like, I've gone on and seen those things, so I thought I would go on and just check out that film and just kind of see how goofy fun it is, and just enjoy it or not enjoy it, and just be like, meh, about it. So, then I, of course, will go on and state that I'm probably just going to have to watch just a bunch of films that are probably just be just parody films and whatever and what have you, just to hope that maybe any number of those parody films can go on and be of interest to people, but then also to retroactively possibly find maybe within those films other films that are going to be popular within them, just so that way I can go on and just continue to find some bits of content, so I can be able to further be able to do well on this platform, because I'm not right now currently the second this recording, but obviously there are to be just uh, reasons for that that are to be just so obvious that I am to not go on and do anything but continue to just ignore. So, with that said, let's go on and let's go into the full on breakdown of this movie, because it is that time again. Spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time again to spoil this movie. Let me know in the comments below, whatever you like, because it'll help out the channel. At some point in the distant future, I will probably go on and realize that somebody had actually done a comment in this thing, and I'll be like, wow, okay, great. It's like, yeah. So, with that said, the very beginning of this film has Chris making his way to this sheet of paper that is to go on and find out what his grading average is, and it is to be a B plus, a 3.0. And so Chris runs to a guy named Tim within this bathroom to go on and see what his grade is. And Tim is like, okay, great. Like, I'll go on and I'll have to go and check myself, because it's not that I don't trust you, Chris, but like, I'm just going to go on and check this myself before we go on and put this whole plan into motion. So, within the beginning of this film, they are to showcase this college environment, having this banner that says, "Are you in or are you out?" And we have a number of things that are going on at the very beginning of the film that we're kind of like, okay, like there's like this thing that is to be kind of sounding off within this beginning of this movie, but we're just kind of like, okay, why is it going on and being an existing thing? And we figure out later what exactly it is. So, in the beginning of this movie, there is this comedian that is going on in this crowd and making this joke about how universities are to go on and have this this scapegoating thing or whatever, to have it be that if your roommate is to go on and do themselves in, that you're to go on for the semester and get all A's, regardless of if you go to the classes or not, regardless of if you even try or whatever, um, because you're going to get an automatic 4.0 anyways. And so this comedian further goes on and makes this joke. It's like, well, hey, then like all you need to go on and do is just end up uh, like being like 007, to where you're to make every single one of your roommates just so miserable, so you can go on and just get yourself a 4.0 education, and so that way you don't have to go on and put much effort into actually your schoolwork. So uh, after this whole buildup of things, uh, we have Chris making his way to Dr. Ashley, who it seems to be his therapist. And Chris is to go on and ask, said Dr. Ashley, well, hey, what are some common signs that I should be looking out for if my roommate is to really be thinking about harming himself or murdering himself? And Dr. Ashley used to go on and explain. It's like, well, like if this guy goes on and is to be crossing out passages in a certain book or this or that, and Chris is to go on and explain to Dr. Ashley, it's like, well, he's not much of a reader, and so she's to go on and then turn around and be like, well, uh, like maybe he is to go on and have a certain assortment of music, or is to read a certain assortment of books, or maybe is to watch a certain kind of film. And so that then goes on and has both Tim and both Chris try and find these items so they can have them planted in Rand's place, So that way, people can naturally assume that it's like, well, yeah, this guy is definitely to go on and be this sad natured of a man. But I don't think the police will actually go on and go through this guy's place and really be specifically looking out for that kind of stuff. It doesn't make sense in my mind. But then also, we turn around and realize that um, these detectives are to find out, like, that these items were just kind of planted in Rand's room anyways, and so it just kind of becomes like, okay, this is kind of stupid. So, so Tim and both Chris are trying to find these items, and while they're doing this, they're going on and explaining what their ultimate plan is. That they're, of course, going to go on and make Rand, after this party, to go on and be just so drunk that he'll go on and just kind of mistakenly just do himself in. And Chris is turning to Tim and like, well, hey, like, aren't we gonna have to drink along with him? And Tim is like, well, it'll look like we're drinking, but instead I'm gonna go on and put water and lemon juice in our drinks, so that way it'll look like we're doing it, but we actually aren't. So the two of them go on to have Chris buy these items, and Tim turns to Chris at one point like, "Oh no, like I'm definitely gonna go on, and I'm gonna keep this receipt because you definitely aren't gonna need the deduction." But really, I think what uh, Tim is really trying to do here is like, "Well, hey, yeah, I'm definitely gonna go on, and I'm gonna try to keep this receipt to either keep it as evidence, or also to just be like, well, hey, I don't trust Chris to keep this receipt because he might use it against me later." So to have some kind of evidence that they had planned this. So to have also at one point where Tim is talking to Chris and there's a lighter that ends up coming into play here, as Chris, it seems, doesn't really smoke, and so Tim ends up taking this lighter from him, just kind of have some kind of bit of thing that Tim can have that has um, Chris's prints on it. So uh, we then go further into this cafeteria. It seems, with a sign that says "Be our guest." Very much reminds me of Beauty and the Beast, bizarrely. So within this cafeteria of a location, we go on to have these characters playing this 10-second game, where it's to kind of be about like charades, or a kind of thing of which that you have to go on and you have to try and have one person try to figure out who the name of this person is without actually saying it, and have some context clues to go on to figure out who the name of this person is. And so we first go on and have both Rand and Natalie playing this game, and we of course get to a, a journey within this game where Rand is to be talking about this baseball athlete, and Natalie, of course, who's on the opposite side of Rand, trying to figure this out, is like, dude, I don't know anything about athletes. And Tim turns to Rand and is like, dude, she's a girl, she'll never get it. And Chris is to just continue to just like, oh no, she knows who this is. Like, she definitely knows who this guy is. And Natalie has no idea. No matter what, this guy has to go on and try to stay here. There's no way she's gonna figure it out. And also, the guy goes on and says it's like, oh, it's a Sesame Street character name, and Natalie's like, Bert, Ernie, so so come to find out that 10 seconds of this is to go on and end up being up, and both Rand and both Natalie are to only go on and get 2 here out of the supposedly 5 that they're to actually go on and get. And Rand is to say like, man, Natalie, you just suck at this game because like I'm never partnering up with you again because you just suck at this. And like any other time I'm to go on and get possibly 5 with anybody else, but with you I only get like just nothing. So we go on and then have the game to be played with Emma and Chris, and Chris is the one going on and needing to figure out who these names are, and they go on and do quite a lot better, and then it's like, well, yeah, of course they do, to just showcase how like between both Emma and both Chris, how like I guess good they are at just kind of figuring this all out. And also there's like this one point where Emma's to talk about the senator and how he's a racist senator, and Chris is like, well, how am I supposed to know who that is? And Tim is just like, well, yeah, there's about like 50 of them. Like, narrow it down more. So, but somehow Chris is to go on and figure this out. So, after this game, it seems, is to go on and be over with. Natalie, it seems, is to go on and be fairly ill while playing this, and Natalie turns to Rand and to say, like, you know what, like, I am really feeling sick. And so Rand is like, well, okay, like, what do you want me to do? Like, go to the bathroom? Like, do you want me to, like, legitimately, like, hold your hair back? Like, what do you want? And so Natalie goes on and is to look at Rand. It's just like, well, okay, well, f you then, I'm leaving. So Natalie turns to Emma and says like, well, hey, I'll see you back at the room. So Emma eventually goes on to leave also. Rand goes on to explain afterwards, like, you know what, I think Natalie, I think she's the one. It's like, yeah, I don't think so, buddy. The way you're just treating her. So Emma and Natalie make their way to their rooms, or to their room, and Natalie goes on to do a test to find out that she is to go on and be pregnant. And there is this whole kind of question of like, well, do you think that we really should go on and take this test again? It's like, well, we've already taken it twice already. Like, it is go on and consistently tell us that that she's pregnant. There are signs that she is pregnant. She has morning sickness and yada yada. So Natalie is worried that Rand will go on and kill her just because of like this can go on to ruin their lives. So we now have Rand with a number of other people that seems are really just trying to either get high or just be at this lighthouse causing trouble and having and beers and what have you. And they're to bump into this security guard that is to kind of be kind of throwing his weight around because he has some kind of uh, ability to just have some kind of power here over these people. So, but then again, also he is just straight up just say that he is just like, well, hey, I'm just this security guard. Like, I have nothing to go on to really do anything to hold you against your will or anything like that. But like, I'm to just go on and be this security guard that is to just have kind of some resemblance of power. And he goes on and explains that. to all of these people. So, and so, because he states that he has no state or governmental authority of any kind, and that he's just this private security officer. So, but Rand is to go on and ask Ernie here, like, well, hey, like, what happens if I go on and I litter anywhere near this area? Like, how long will that give me? 5 to 10 years? So, because Ernie has to go on and just kind of look at Rand and realize how close he is uh, to this cliff, and Ernie wants him to go on and make his way back from being so close to this cliff, just because he doesn't want him dying while this guy is on this shift. So we have Dr. Ashley that has made her way to this place and is ordering these certain items, and she passes by both Natalie and both Tim that are at this table, and they're talking to one another. Natalie is to go on and want to tell Tim her secret that she is to go on and be pregnant. And once Tim finds out the secret, he turns to Natalie and is like, well, yeah, you have to tell him. Because, of course, he wants Rand to know, because that'll give Tim all the more reason to think of a way to just be like, well, yeah, we definitely can easily kill Rand here, because, like, he is to want to do himself in because of finding out that he has a baby on the way. And this can go on and be kind of a more justifiable like reason for finding out that he has a baby, and he think that this is going to ruin his life, and so on and so forth, to just kind of push this character via all of these signs just over the edge, even though actually they're probably going to murder him here. So Natalie goes on and explains that it's like, well, I'm a junior, I'm a Catholic, I'm a Canadian, and there's going to be a number of problems. Like if I go on and I tell Rand um, about any of this, and Natalie is to also state that she feels that probably Rand doesn't really love her anymore, and that more than likely Natalie is thinking that Rand is probably going to want um, Natalie to get rid of it, and that's probably not what Natalie ultimately wants, because of how the guys go on and explain it. It's like, oh, this woman is like Joan of Arc. She's just pure and whatever, and she's not going to get rid of this baby. She's going to go on and carry it to term, because there's no way that she's going to go on and get an abortion or get rid of it. She's not going to. So, and it's going to ruin Rand's life. Oh, horrible. So, and Tim is going on and telling Natalie it's so cool. No, Natalie, like, Rand definitely loves you. He loves you with all of his heart. And, like, and Natalie is telling Tim, it's like, well, he has dreams of going to grad school, and this is going to be dash if he goes on and has a baby right now. And Tim is like, Rand doesn't give a about grad school. Like, he doesn't care about school in general. So, so eventually, the further and further they have this kind of backing and forthing here, eventually, by the tail end of this, Natalie is just appreciative that Tim is willing to hear her out. So Tim is to go on and say, like, well, hey, just go on and just kind of kiss me on the cheek. And as Natalie gets so ever so close to Tim's cheek, Tim then is to then turn and kiss Natalie on the lips. And that is when Rand turns up. And Rand looks at Tim like, hey, what's going on here? So, you put the moves on my girl. To where Rand eventually goes on by the party to later have some kind of conspiracy that Natalie possibly is to go on and be sleeping around on him or coming up with some reason for eventually when he is to find out the truth about this pregnancy, that maybe it's not actually his. Bizarrely. But anyways, so Tim is to go on and ask Rand what time he's going to be at the party, and he's going to be there by 10. It's like, all right, okay, so we're going to play Beer Hunter instead of Deer Hunter. So, we are supposed to have Natalie at this point, considering she's alone with Rand, go on and possibly break the news to him now, but she does not go on and do so. She actually does break the news right in front of everybody at this party. So now we have Emma, and now we have Chris, and they're having a bit of a alone time. And Emma, it seems, is wanting to go on and being intimate, but Chris is to go on and be so distracted with what is to probably transpire soon by murdering somebody, but then also getting his grades up, and that's all he gives a about. So, as Emma is to try to be intimate with Chris, and it seems that Chris has the inability to be able to perform, like Emma is still trying to break it down. It's like, well, hey, do you want to be the one on top? And Chris is just like, no, like I'm just like, I just have so many things going on in my mind right now that this just really isn't one of them. And so, really, just having Emma just kind of turn to the side and just be like, man, like shouldn't you go on and kind of seek help with the fact that you like just have this problem? And Chris is just like, well, I already have a tutor, and Emma's like, well, that's not what I mean. And like seeking just kind of professional help, just kind of work through these mental problems that he's having. So, but we further go into the party here, and there's to be this B girl that is going on and handing out all these flyers that no one gives a about because they're already at a party. And this girl is trying to go on and bring up this spring fling thing that probably no one will give a about. So, as Chris and Emma start to make their way through this party, seeing that Tim is dancing with some girl here, they mention how this party sucks, and so all of a sudden Emma and Chris start to make their way further through this party and meet with a guy named Jimmy, who it seems is to be of a certain kind of person, let's just say. This guy is to, I guess, be in mental capacities to be slow. And what ends up transpiring here is Tim makes his way to Jimmy and is to have a girl on his shoulder, Tim. And so Tim goes on to then ask Jimmy, it's like, well, hey, looking at this girl, like, would you like to be with a girl like this? Would you like to have sex with her? And Jimmy's like, well, maybe. So eventually, because Tim is consistently trying to push this fact, and maybe this girl is to not really be interested in Jimmy, she then is to make her way of exit. And Tim is to go on and seemingly be upset with Jimmy to state, hey, like, you upset this girl. Like, you definitely need to go on and have to give me $10 so I can get this girl flowers. And Jimmy is to, of course, give in to this and give Tim $10, which is like, yeah, like I'm sure he'd planned that all along. Just get money out of this guy. So we further go on to have both Tim and both Chris going off to the side in this party and kind of putting plans together and putting things into place. And having Tim give Chris this tequila that is to be water and lemon juice, and Chris is to drink it and to realize how horrible it is. But so, now we go to the beer hunter segment of this party. So, the beer hunter thing is to go on and be between what is seemed to be Ran and Chris here. So, the object of this game is to go on and take uh, this can of beer, put it against your skull, and if you were to go on and open it and the thing is to fizz and to just spray on you, then you are to lose this game. But it's just to go on and look at all this beer that is to go on and be around you and see if the beer is to go on and be shaken or not. So, we of course go on and have Rand consistently looking at Chris as the gun consistently spins and goes to Chris, and Rand is like, "All right, bring us home," and it's probably saying a number of things that are to probably be from the Deer Hunter film. So Chris is to go on and open this one can, and it is to spray all over his face, and then of course Chris ends up going on and doing it again, and he opens it and the beer does not go on and legitimately like spray much in his face, but it just kind of dribbles a little bit to realize that, okay, no, this was not the beer that had been shaken. So further we go into this just kind of fun little party endeavor, and Natalie is to want to go on and pull Rand aside here, and Rand at this point is kind of a little bit annoyed just because of like, well, hey, what does Natalie want to go on and pull me away from this party or pull me away from my friends that are just having fun? Like, what does this girl really want to do, because she is ruining my fun here? So Rand gets to the point where he's like stopping the whole entire party because Natalie just needs to say something. He's pushing this so much so that eventually it'll get to the point to where Natalie just wants to lash out at Rand, just because, like, all right, well, like, if you really want to make a whole scene about this, just because I want to tell you something that I probably should have told you earlier, but I couldn't have been bothered, because she was worried about saying this to him. But so, uh, and also Rand is to state that Natalie is like, oh well, like did your mother forget to send you money for a Xanax prescription or something like that, to go on and just kind of dig into this girl because of how much Rand is just so annoyed with her. So to her almost Natalie is almost in tears at this point. So and Rand is like, oh well, looks like Natalie's getting angry. So and Rand is just kind of upset because it's ruining this party. So finally, uh, Natalie lashes out and finally divulges that she's pregnant. And Tim is like, "Atta girl, Natalie, all right." And Rand turns to Tim. It's like, "You knew about this?" And Tim is like, "Yeah, I knew about this. Like, she told me." And so eventually Rand ends up getting upset because it's like, well, hey, like, how is it that everyone is to go on and know about this but me? Like, so Rand in turn starts to lash out, and he ends up accusing Natalie that maybe she has been sleeping around, and maybe that it's not even his, and is probably looking at Tim because they had kissed prior, and yeah, like he's probably having suspicions that maybe it's not his baby. So after this whole scene, it is really just kind of ruined this whole uh, party here. And Tim and Chris are to turn to one another like, all right, phase one is complete here. So Rand, Tim, and Chris would be at this lighthouse, and Tim is to be holding these tequila bottles. So they make their way to this lighthouse, and Tim hands Rand this beer, and he starts to drink it. It's like, oh man, this is awful, and this isn't tequila at all. And then Tim drinks it. It's like, oh yeah, that's the other one. So he goes on and gives Rand this actual beer, and Rand starts to drink it. It's like, all right, yeah, it goes down smooth. So Rand further and further starts to drink, and Rand is to start to contemplate that Natalie should probably go on and get rid of the child, to probably have her get an abortion, or that maybe there's enough time for Rand to get some kind of plan B pill, or some kind of pill that is to probably cause um, a miscarriage or abortion or whatever. Or also, Tim is like, well, hey, like, since you've already gone on and just kind of planned this out already in your mind, like, why don't you just find a nice like flight of stairs or something like that? And it's like, man, wow, this is getting really dark. But so, while Rand in his mind is coming up with this plan, and both Tim and Chris are realizing how just like awful this guy really is, and how Chris to tell Rand, it's like, no, like this girl Natalie is so Joan of Arc and so good that she won't give this baby up. She'll go on and carry it to term. So the further and further Rand is to go on and drink this beer, eventually he starts to get sick and falls to the ground, as he is to be standing. And Tim goes on and explains to both Rand and both Chris why this is. Because Tim is to go on and is to have decided to put rat poisoning within this beer. It's like, you realize that Tim had gone on to so easily mistaken this beer for the one that he was supposed to drink. Like, what would have happened if like they would have kept not going on and realizing what beer was what, and someone else would have gone on and drink that, and that person would have gone on and died. But anyways, so Tim is to give this reveal that it's like, all right, it's rat poison. So Rand falls over, and they decide, all right, it's time to just throw this guy off of this cliff and do himself in. And so Rand is to go on with his last breaths and um, grab Tim here and choke him, but then he goes on and he passes out here, or is supposed to be dying off here. Also, like, But the fact of the matter is, if Tim is to go on and plant this whole rat poison thing, why is it that uh, we go on and find what happens to Rand by the end of this tale, which doesn't quite make any sense to me. But so maybe because actually Rand had not actually gone on and drank the actual one that he was supposed to, or maybe he was pretending to drink anything. And yeah, so, anyways, so Tim ends up asking Chris to roll the body with him, and Chris, it seems, is starting to get a little sick to the stomach, realizing that he's probably having a problem, justifying actually doing this now that they're actually there. So Tim is to try to go on and roll the body, and then realize for maybe good measure that they need to make sure that this guy is dead, and maybe they should go on and take a rock to his face, which Tim does not go on and actually convincingly go on and do. Instead, they decide to go on and throw this guy off of this cliff and hope for the best. So they go on the following morning to have Natalie make their way to Chris and Tim's room because she, of course, is looking for Rand. And Tim and Chris turn to one another eventually, like, well, hey, she's going to be in for a surprise. So, but then also, even at one point, Tim is to go on and be like, well, hey, like, uh, maybe at some point someone should throw him off a cliff or something. And the way that Tim is to go on and just state that, it's like, that really seems very fishy that Tim is to go on and actually made that kind of statement. But no one is to go on and think edge otherwise of it. So Natalie has decided that she wants to go on and leave college to make her way back home to Canada and to probably go on and still have this baby. So as Natalie goes on to leave, both Chris and Tim are like, well, hey, like, don't forget to write. So we then go on to have both Tim and both Chris find out that Rand is missing, and they found out through Chancellor Alexander. So Chancellor Alexander is to go on and say to these guys, like, well, hey, like, since your roommate, it seems, is to go on and be mysteriously missing, and we haven't recovered Rand just yet, like, maybe you guys should go on and end up with this 4.0. And Tim is to go on to be just so upset, and even to the point where he is almost to go on and reject the fact that he's to go on and get this 4.0. Whereas Chris, it seems, is to be so much more just kind of just to kind of be more reserved and to go on and just kind of be more quiet about a lot of this. So Tim and Chris are going on and talking to this chancellor, and are to also find out that they're going to be questioned by these two detectives. And both Chris and both Tim are to go on like detectives. And it's like, well, yeah, like, it's just a formality. Like, it's just to go on and find out what had happened to Rand, and eventually it's to all eventually figure out what had happened to him, and be the build up of like, well, hey, yeah, they have to go on and do some kind of investigation if they can't go on and find where Rand exactly is. So the two of them go on, and I don't think there is a definitive answer whether or not that they should take this 4.0. And also, they haven't technically found Rand's body yet. So, uh, like, these guys aren't going to take this 4.0 until they find Rand's body somewhere. So, they go on and they do this memorial service with Rand's picture and candle lighting visual to go on and mourn the loss of Rand, as we see both Emma and both Natalie, and they have their candles lit and they're just sad, boo-hooery. So Chris, Natalie, Emma, and Tim are all at this bar, and they're going on and just talking about Rand here. And so they're talking about Paper Moons and they're talking about all this. So here's where Tim goes on and does this story about Rand, how he had gone on and supposedly had this girl to the prom, that the two of them go on to decide that, oh hey, like let's just go to this prom as friends, and as revenge for Rand's broken heart, he then goes on and instead of taking this girl, which she immediately thinks that she's gonna go on to go to this prom and she's just waiting for Rand to pick her up and go to this place. Instead, Rand goes on and takes this prostitute that is to be the cheapest, lowest, bottom of the rung, whatever girl to take instead of of course what is to end up being the girl he was supposed to actually take as friends, just because of the revenge of it all. So Tim goes on and fully explains this story to then just have Natalie just of course get upset by this story and just get so sad and what have you. So really just putting Rand in just a negative light here. So at one point both Tim and both Chris are to go on off to the side, be asking like, well hey, like where is Rand's body by now? Like why haven't they discovered it? And like when I think Chris ends up asking him, it's like, well, hey, where is Rand's body? Where is Rand? And Tim is like, well, he's in heaven because he's dead. Um, it's like, well, the body is obviously in the river, you idiot. And so uh, Chris is turning to Tim. It's like, well, why isn't his body come up? Like, well, I don't know. Like maybe it's stuck in a tire somewhere. So they're both realizing that they still need to go on and have a body show up so that way they can get this GPA, because that was the whole goal. So, and that the two of them want to go on and get into Harvard and this and that. So, uh, so eventually the two of them are to go on and be talking here, and are to kind of settle up with their tab and this and that, and then they leave. So Natalie is to go on and uh, is to take a picture from both Tim and Chris's place of both Rand and her. And she's looking at this picture, and she's at the lighthouse. And so what ends up transpiring after that is Natalie is to decide to thrust herself over this cliff in a very sudden like motion. So the next thing we end up seeing is Dr. Ashley, that is to be talking to Chris and is to say, like, you know what, like, for how you had gone on and just talked about how you are to have uh, had a friend of yours that is to seemingly be going through some troubles. Like, I honestly thought that you were talking about yourself, but it seems that you were legitimately talking about another person. So, and a lot of times people are just kind of embarrassed to admit that fact. So, that they may actually be dealing with it, so they come up with like some fictional friend. But no, in this case, like it is to have actually been Rand in this case. So, Chris is to go on, and eventually, the further and further he is to talk to Dr. Ashley here, uh, that like Chris is almost tempted to go on and talk to Dr. Ashley further about kind of what's going on in his life. And I mean, really, what's going on in his life. And so Chris is to ask Dr. Ashley at one point, it's like, well, hey, like whatever I'm to go on and talk about here, like, are you to kind of leave it a bit of a secret? And Dr. Ashley's like, well, like regardless of what you were to kind of go on and state here, like I have an oath that I won't break, and I won't go on and I won't tell anybody what you were to go on and state here. To where, like, it kind of feels that Chris is to be fairly tempted to go on and tell Dr. Ashley the truth about what's really going on behind the scenes here, that he is probably going on and orchestrating this whole murder thing. But Chris never really goes on and admits to it, but instead he's just kind of tempted by it. So we then turn around and have both Chris and both Tim uh, have these detectives show up. Detective Shipper and Detective Amato. So Amato is to go on and be the white guy. Shipper is to go on and be the black guy. So we go on and have Shipper that is to go on and start having these lines of questioning between both Tim and Chris here. So what Shipper goes on and asks here is like, well, hey, like, what has been kind of leading up to the last few weeks in Rand's situation? Like anything seem out of the ordinary or fairly weird to you? So the two guys are to go on and explain that uh, that Rand is to have just a number of just kind of these depressing books and videos and stuff like that. And eventually, both the detectives will go on and find out that actually uh, Chris had paid uh, with these things with his credit card, and they'll figure that out. But now, like, they'll just kind of assume that logically Rand did do that, but then we'll figure that out later because it's on Chris's credit card, because it seems that both these detectives are kind of further looking into Chris, because eventually there is to actually be Tim who's to go on and have this bit of story here. So Tim ends up bringing up that Chris and Rand were having a problem at this party, which led into Rand punching Chris in the face, because Rand is to go on and be fairly upset with Natalie, and then all of a sudden, kind of Chris ends up kind of getting in the way. Rand punches Chris, and Tim goes on and says the fact that Chris was to go on and try and find Rand after the party, and it seems that Chris was to go on and try to need some kind of story that he can go on and put together that is to go on and justify what ended up happening. But so, um, really going on and having Tim possibly, if anything, like try to figure out how he can distance himself from Rand, to say that maybe if they're looking at anybody, that Chris may go on and be the murderer in this case, instead of actually Tim, who had gone on and gotten his hands dirty here. So the further and further Chris to be looking at Tim and be like, really? Like, come on, man. Like, so just be like, man, like, Chris is really realizing how Tim has really gone on to just kind of be turning on him and twisting the knife here. So also, there's to be this bullseye board that Detective Amato is going to be throwing darts at. I think the character in the middle of this dartboard is to actually be maybe Vince Vaughn here. I'm not sure. But so, uh, after this scene, we have both Tim and both Emma, and they're sitting between one another here, and both of them are to go on and be talking uh, about Chris here, about how like Chris is to go on and be so desperate about him needing to go to Harvard, and he's on a waiting list, and he's so obsessed with this, and that also Emma is also realizing that Chris is just so focused on Rand here, and how Emma really wants to go on and help like Chris through this, uh, but Chris doesn't even want to really actually talk to Emma anymore, and so uh, here is where Tim goes on and explains to Emma about how Chris is going on and getting straight A's with this 4.0. And then Tim goes on and explains to Emma how, because he had to find out this loophole, that if they are to go on and to have one of their roommates kind of commit murder upon themselves, that they are to get automatically this 4.0. To really just have Tim tell Emma about this, because Chris never went on and explained anything about it. But it seemed that both Tim and both Chris knew about it ahead of time before Rand is to go on and actually have his demise the way he does. So, but then also Emma was to think that all of this was possibly just to be some kind of myth, that it wasn't actually true. But Tim's going to explain to Emma that, oh, no, 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 they'd offer this to us. So, and so Emma is to just be kind of pondering whether or not that Chris is going to actually take this. So, but here is where Tim goes on and to kind of put further uneasement into Emma, that Chris is to maybe have been planning this all along. That Chris is to go on and be joking around with Tim to state that Tim should go on and do himself in, so that way Chris can have this 4.0. And even so, like, also like having Tim mention, well, yeah, and definitely like the night of the party when Rand had popped Chris in the face, uh, like through obviously half of the campus, and Rand took off. Chris took off right after him, and again, having all this to be heard off in the distance by Dr. Ashley. So Tim is going on and kind of putting this whole thing together to really make Chris look horrible. And so Tim then turns to Emma and just to say, like, well, hey, like, the following morning after Rand is to disappear and Chris is to go after him, all of a sudden we realize that Rand is supposedly dead and Chris is to be able to have his golden ticket to go to Harvard. And there are some suspicions there. So, and Tim is to turn to Emma and be like, well, yeah, all this just seems far too convenient, right? So, and Emma's like, no, 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 like, Chris is a good guy, like, he's your best friend, like, there's no way he's gone on and done something like this. But Tim is to kind of leave this doubt in Emma's mind. It's like, well, yeah, but, like, it does make too much of a bit of sense if you really think about it. So, both Chris and both Emma make their way to this lighthouse, to this cliff, and the two of them are not quite sure what ended up happening to Natalie, and so the two of them are just kind of questioning about what had happened to her. But like the suspicion is that Natalie had just kind of left town to go back home. So that's what kind of the conclusion is. But the further and further the detectives go on and sift their way through this bit of lake that these people had fallen into, eventually they go on and they do find Natalie's body. But so uh, Emma goes on and is trying to talk to Chris here, and it seems further and further that Chris is pushing Emma away, to where Emma just kind of gets a little bit frustrated at the fact that Chris isn't really talking here. So Emma goes on and brings up to Chris about the whole fact of the 4.0 and that Chris didn't tell her about it, but she had learned it from Tim. And without Chris really quite knowing exactly what Emma had really uh, found out from Tim here, or maybe that Tim had revealed every single thing about what they had gone on and orchestrated and planned and whatever, just kind of unsure about what to really come up with here. It just seems that Chris is to try as much as possible to question whether or not to take the 4.0 or not. And also Chris is to be kind of be upset with Tim by the fact it's like, well, hey, like Tim went on and told you this, like I didn't think he would because like besides you and me, like we're the only two that actually know. And so but also Chris is just like, well, I don't even know what's really going on right now. So uh so Emma turns to Chris and is like, well, hey, like if you go on, you take it, like I'll still love you if you take the 4.0 for this guy dying. And Emma is to tell Chris is like, well, yeah, you definitely go on and you definitely need to use this so that we can go into Harvard. But like, but really, like, why do you need Harvard so badly? And Chris is just like, well, like it's either flipping burgers or it's Harvard, and that's it. So like, there is no second place. There is no second opportunity. There isn't any like going to college anywhere else. But so the further and further that the two of them talk together, Chris is to go on and be talking to Emma, just like, you know what, like if I'm gonna figure all this out, I'm gonna figure this out all on my own. And Emma's just like, well, God, can't you just go on and talk with this with me and this and that? Because like technically, like if the two of them are in love with one another, like we have to realize that the two of them are going to go on and like if this is going to go on and affect Chris's future, they should probably figure this out together because they're in love together and that they're going to go on and kind of build their future together. But it seems that Chris is so much of a person that is going to go on and just continue to distance himself away from Emma, that Emma is to just go on and just kind of want to just be done with Chris for how he wants to go on and just kind of go about this all on his own. So here's where the detectives go on and find Natalie's body within this lake, and they sift it out. And so uh, here is where Chris is to go on and talk to Tim here, like, hey, like, what the heck is going on? And Tim is to make a joke of like, well, like, because Tim is in the bathroom right now. He's like, well, this would be considered taking a piss, and Tim is to go on it and make jokes. So, coming to find out, they realize, or they heard word that Natalie is dead, and Tim is to realize, well, yeah, that's definitely unfortunate to the whole like what is to transpire within this, but like Tim is to also go on to realize that nothing has really changed, that their plan is still going as planned, and Chris sees Natalie's death as to just kind of be on their conscience, that it should be their fault for having this all happen, and so Tim is to kind of start lashing out at Chris, and Chris is to go on and do the same here, and because Chris is a turn to Tim, it's like, well, hey, I thought this was all going to just be simple and easy, but it's getting more and more complicated here. And Chris is to also state to Tim, it's like, well, yeah, we did kill this guy. So and Chris is going on and saying like because this is to start to get more complicated, that police are getting involved. And Tim is like, well, we obviously knew that this was going to come up. We knew the police was going to be a factor here. And Chris is like, well, yeah, but like uh so eventually the further and further they start talking here, the more and more Tim is to also state that he had spent some time with the detectives and started to talk to them. And Chris is like, well, when did you do that? And Tim is like, well, yeah, I went on a ride along with them and we started talking. So, like, Tim is trying to figure out some way to go on and definitively make sure that he's going to make his way from not being in any part of really this crime, and to probably put so much pressure on Chris here. And Chris is almost getting to the point where he's like, you know what, I don't think I can go on and deal with this anymore. And so, uh, and then also Tim's to go on and talk about how Rand is a size 12, and Chris is just like, what is that? What does that? What does that matter? Why are you consistently just joking around? So, and Tim is to lash out at Chris, like, well, hey, when did I go on and put a gun to your head to do this? Like, and Tim is to go on and explain to Chris here. It's like, well, you know what? Like, you're the one who had gone on and orchestrated this plan, but you didn't want to see it through. And Chris is just like, well, none of this is really worth a 4.0 at this point. And and Chris is just saying that he may not even want to go to Harvard anymore. And but then also Tim is stated to, well, hey, like, what about my education too? What about where I'm going also? And so, but then also Tim is to go on and remind Chris about how, like, obviously Chris's grades were starting to slip, and how just in desperation Chris really was. So, and the grade of which that he started to slip on, of course, was to be Intro to Ethics, which is to be just very ironic. So, with how they were to go on and realize that for this grade that they should probably go on and murder somebody, ethics, right? So, so yeah, so trying to fast track here as much as possible. So, because I realized, oh my god, we're an hour and 20 minutes now. So, ugh. So Tim and Chris are to go on and find out that, or to go on to realize that, like, well, Emma, it seems like Chris needs to go on and figure out a way to butter Emma up. That it seems that Emma is kind of slipping away from Chris, and Chris needs to go on to figure out some way to win her back on his side. So, what Tim is to go on and plan here is for Chris to go on uh, and get all of these candles and romantic lighting and everything like that to put in Emma's place. So that way, Chris can go on uh, and be with Emma and have Chris kind of win Emma back over. So as Chris ends up getting ready for this date, uh, Tim is behind him and he puts like this finger gun to uh, of course the back of Tim. So the two detectives are going on and speaking with Dr. Ashley, who is to, of course, go on and have this oath and is to not really say much of anything to these detectives. And Detective Amato is to try to get something out of this Dr. Ashley, but she will not give up anything because she, again, has this oath. So both Tim and Emma make their way to this bar, and it seems that this waitress will not go on and, or this bartender will not go on and serve Tim because at some point Tim had been with this girl and treated her wrong. So uh, Tim and Emma are to have this really fun time at this bar, and so, but all of this is to go on and lead. Uh, of course, Tim to Emma to this room where it is to be all decorated out, and Chris is to showcase his love for her, Emma, and Tim is to go on and leave. But instead, what ends up happening is that Tim makes his way to Emma's room to find out how lavishly decorated it is, and Emma is to go on and think that Tim had put this all together, and all of a sudden both Emma and Tim start to kiss, and Emma is to drop to her knees. Chris is going on in the closet and watching all of this transpire, and Tim is to go on and just kind of with his big old eyes look at Chris like, aha! And so Chris is to open up this closet and is to make his way from out of there. And we then go on to this candlelight visual, finding out that both Natalie and both Rand are now dead, so they both have these candlelight visuals. So Chris is to go on and be sitting down, and Emma is to be kind of sitting next to him, kind of breaking down the events of what had happened the night before, and to have Emma find out that Chris had gone on and put all those decorations together and was going to surprise Emma, and just kind of finding out what was supposed to happen but didn't. So Chancellor Alexander is to go on and be speaking to these detectives, and there was this one funny scene where the Chancellor Alexander is smoking this pipe, and so the detective Amato is asking, like, "Hey, can I smoke?" And the Chancellor's like, "Well, I'd rather have you not." And so the detectives are going on and they're questioning this Chancellor, and so the next thing we end up seeing here is Chris is making his way to the room to talk to Tim. And this time around, he's having a tape recorder on him so he can go on and talk about the things that they have gone on and done, and to get this all on tape. And so Tim at this point is going on and talking to Chris here, and since Rand still, like, the body has not yet been found, Tim is to almost be so tempted to want to put a gun to his own head to just say, like, well, hey, Chris, if you really want this 4.0, then I'm going to give it to you. And Chris is like, no, don't go and do that. So, because realistically here, Chris just wants some kind of evidence to just kind of plant on Tim here. So the two of them go on and talk all this out, and so Ernie is to go on and be talking to these two detectives, and all of a sudden Chris is to be walking by. So that then leads to having these two detectives talk to Chris and mention about how Chris had gone on and with his credit card spent the money to have all of this evidence that Rand is just be sad with all of these things. So Chris is to further go on and talk to these detectives, and Detective Amato is to just get so upset that he is to go on and want to chase after Chris here, but then the other detectives just kind of hold him there. And so Chris goes on to still have this tape that he's going to go and give to Emma. And so what ends up happening here after Chris goes on and does that, all of a sudden Tim is to come out of the shadows with this just kind of heartbreaking note that he is to go on and probably make up to have it be that Chris is to have supposedly have this note. So then Tim turns to Emma and kisses her. So Chris going on to realize, like, well, hey, maybe I should just go on and whip out this gun, because if it seems that Chris is to have to go on and have these two people working against him, that he should whip out this gun to even the odds. And then all of a sudden we come to find that Chris is to go on and be even more outnumbered, as all of a sudden Rand comes out of the shadow. And we come to find out that Rand had not been dead all along. That instead, Rand had just been pretending to be dead here. So Now we come to find that Rand is in this therapy session talking to Dr. Ashley, and is to just be in so much an emotional state that he's in tears and he's kind of putting a tissue to his eye. So, as Chris is now holding this gun to a number of these three people, and Rand is continue to tell his story about how he had gone on and been missing, and he had made his way to uh, find like some place where you can go on and just kind of reveal that he is still alive and this and that, because this is all to conclude up to this story to find that Rand is now still alive, and what is also on the other end to deliver the conclusion of this movie. So Tim is to set up here that Chris should go on and just do himself in here, because Tim has gone on to set up that Chris had quite possibly been having suspicions of being a murderer, and Tim is to state that Chris had lost his girlfriend to another man, and any number of things that Tim could have gone on throughout this film and build up for how Chris is to, of course, go on and be the one to need to do himself in here. So Tim, instead of turning the gun on anybody, is to actually turn the gun on himself to just be like, well, hey, like if you guys really want to go on and have this happen, like I may as well just kind of just end up doing myself in the way you guys want, because everybody seems to be transpiring against him. So Chris goes on, takes the gun to his head, and as it goes off, we come to find, oh, no bullets. So we all of a sudden go on to then find that uh, that after Chris goes on and drops the gun, Rand starts to pick it up and put bullets in it, to where now Tim is to turn to Rand and be like, well, hey, like, why are you putting bullets in that gun? And Rand is like, well, I want to load it. I want to make sure that there's guns in it, or there's bullets in this gun. So Rand then goes on, takes the gun, and instead of turning it on Chris, he turns it on Tim. So now the tables have turned, and Chris is to then and go on and explain, like, well, yeah, like, we decided this whole time to turn against you. And in all honesty, because of how really much of a horrible person Tim really is to go on and be, this master manipulator, and to do this horrible things that he had gone on and done, yeah, like, it is to go on and make more of the sense than anyone else that Chris should be going on and doing Tim here the way he does. And so, of course, instead of them going on and shooting, uh, of course, Tim here, or forcing Tim to shoot himself, instead they take Tim and they chuck him off this cliff to murder him here. So now we go on to have both Chris and both Emma, who are walking their way through the parts of this campus. And so they go on and they kind of set up here that Emma was with Natalie, and there could be a possibility that they may have gone on and maybe fudged the results, possibly that Natalie was pregnant. There could be possibly that possibility that that could have happened. But then again, not quite sure. But Rand is to go on and is to turn to Dr. Ashley here and say, it's like, well, hey, like, it seems that Rand is to have a life ahead of him, and so Dr. Ashley used to ask Rand, it's like, well, hey, now that you have this ability to get this 4.0 because your friend was obviously found dead, like, what do you see what you're doing in your future? And Rand ended up saying, like, well, hey, like, maybe I'll go on into acting and maybe I'll have something to do with drama. And the movie just kind of ends with that. So with that said, I'm going to get the heck out of here to go on and put this video up for the day. This one was to go on and just be like, okay, let's just kind of get through this as fast as I can to at least get it under some kind of way of the time minute, because I know I've gone on and talked for so many videos for very long lengths of time. Then also I have other things going on with my day also, so I'm just trying to get those things done. And really, I'm just trying to be as honest as possible with people, to say it's like, yeah, I have like so much things to do in my day, but like, really, I did go on and I did get some kind of enjoyment weirdly with this film. But really, yeah, it's so sad that I was go on and just be like, oh, like, this movie was just to end up being a thing that I just reviewed once, and probably people may not be interested in it. But regardless, like, it's just like, I went on to state that it's like, well, yeah, I just need content, I just need things to do, and that just feels just very just sad how I'm at that point of just doing this. But really, I'm to go on and just be like, well, hey, I've wanted to see this movie because I haven't seen it before, and then when really looking at it, I was like, well, like, I watched this movie because I've never seen it before, but then, like, I have to go on and talk about it here. Like, that is the hardest part about this whole thing. Is just like, well, like, I saw this movie and it's not really that good, but at least, like, I have something on the channel to just kind of hopefully do something with in the future. So with that said, I hope to go on and find more bits of content that I can use on this channel to just keep this channel existing, so I can just keep having bits of content. My plan is to probably still go on and probably still just keep chipping away at this bits of content, but also realizing that it's just really tough to go on and put out a channel at this point now, because no one is really interested in new release stuff, and also no one is really interested in the content that I have to deliver, because really, I don't blame them. But um, I'm just trying to just continue to just do this channel. I'm trying to do it to the best of my ability, and really, I'm to just go on and be like, well, hey, I'm trying to watch something new instead of just kind of watching the same old stuff that I've kind of seen a bajillion times, or also just re-reviewing stuff from the past. And at least I'm just going on and doing that, in all honesty. So, with that said, goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for going on and watching this, however length of which that you decide to do it, even if it was 20 or 30 seconds. Or seemingly, I've been going on and seeing people that just kind of click onto a video, and then the timestamp is to be like zeros, and I'm like, well, okay, all right, well, like, at least it is to somehow count as a view, even though that really does nothing uh, for the video. Excuse me, because like, the videos all need just time on them to go in and just go anywhere. But regardless, I guess just a view just means something, I guess. To just kind of keep this channel alive, to just like, okay, like, it seemed that people are just kind of helping out the channel in that way, I guess. So I can go on and just appreciate the fact that somebody is going on and doing that, for whatever reason that they decide to just do that. So yeah, I'm gonna get the heck out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.